Pregnant and alone, Abigail was left behind in a storm with only a thin blanket and a small bundle of food. The wagon train continued their journey, abandoning her to struggle in the harsh elements. No shelter, no assistance, just driving rain and howling wind. She stumbled through the mud, feeling hopeless and ready to surrender. But then, through the storm, a Lakota warrior appeared, calm, steadfast, and observing her intently. She thought her life was at an end, but destiny had other plans. Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from, and subscribe if you believe that destiny can bring unexpected allies. Abigail was a widow. She was pregnant. She joined a wagon train moving west. Her husband had died, and she wanted a new start. The journey was hard. The ground was rough and the weather was harsh. Abigail was determined, but it was not easy. The wagon train was full of different people. Some were families. Some were single men looking for land. Everyone wanted a better life. They traveled together for safety. The journey was long, and it tested their strength. The leader of the group, Mr. Johnson, was strict. He made sure everyone knew the rules. Abigail tried to keep up with the group. She walked beside her wagon, holding her belly. Her baby was due in a few months. She felt tired often. Her feet hurt, her back ached, but she kept moving. She wanted to reach the new land, a place where she could start over. The group faced many problems. They ran out of food sometimes. The river crossings were dangerous. Wagons got stuck in the mud. People got sick. Tensions rose among the travelers. They argued over small things. Everyone was tired and stressed. One day a storm came. The sky turned dark, and the wind howled. The rain poured down, soaking everyone. The wagons struggled to move. The path became slippery and dangerous. Abigail's wagon fell behind. The horses were tired. They could not pull the heavy load fast enough. Mr. Johnson called a meeting. The group gathered, shivering in the rain. He said they had to make a choice. The storm was too strong. They needed to find shelter fast. But they could not wait for stragglers. Abigail listened, her heart pounding. She knew what was coming. Mr. Johnson looked at her. He said the group could not afford to slow down. They had to leave anyone who could not keep up. Abigail felt a lump in her throat. She wanted to protest, but she knew it was useless. The others nodded. They were afraid for their own lives. Abigail was given a small bundle. It had some food and a thin blanket. The group moved on, leaving her behind. She watched them disappear into the storm, feeling alone and terrified. Her heart ached with sorrow. She was abandoned. The rain continued to pour. Abigail tried to move forward. Her clothes were soaked. She shivered in the cold. She had to find shelter. She thought of her husband. She missed him terribly. She wished he were there to help her. Her mind drifted to the baby. She placed a hand on her belly. She had to survive for the child's sake. She could not give up. She walked slowly, her feet dragging through the mud. Her body was tired, but her will was strong. As she moved, the storm raged on. Lightning flashed across the sky. The thunder was loud and frightening. Abigail felt small and helpless. The world seemed vast and uncaring. But she kept going one step at a time. The night fell, and the darkness deepened. Abigail stumbled over rocks and roots. Her feet hurt with every step. She wanted to rest, but she knew she couldn't stop. She had to find a safe place. Hours passed. Abigail's hope began to fade. Her legs were weak. Her body was cold. She was scared. The thought of being alone in the storm was terrifying. She thought of her husband again. His smile, his warmth. She wished he were there to comfort her. She remembered the stories he told, stories of brave settlers who faced hardships but persevered. She wanted to be brave like them. She wanted to be strong for her baby. She kept those thoughts in her mind as she walked through the night. Finally, she saw something, a shadow in the distance. It was dark, but it looked like a cave. Her heart leapt with hope. She moved toward it, her steps quickening. She prayed it was real, not a trick of her tired eyes. Reaching the cave, she felt relief. It was small, but it would shelter her from the storm. She crawled inside, grateful for the cover. The wind could not reach her here. The rain was just a distant sound. She was safe, at least for now. Abigail settled down in the cave. She wrapped the blanket around her shoulders. It was thin, but it helped. She ate a little from the bundle. The food was plain, but it gave her strength. She leaned back against the cave wall, closing her eyes. She thought of the journey so far, the struggles, the pain, but also the hope, the chance for a new life. She wanted that. She needed to believe it was possible. Her baby depended on her. As she rested, her mind drifted. She thought of the people she had met on the journey. Some were kind, others not so much. But everyone had their own struggles. She wondered if they would make it to the new land. The storm continued outside. Abigail listened to the rain. It was calming now, a steady rhythm. Her body relaxed, exhaustion taking over. She knew she needed to sleep. Tomorrow would be another challenge. In the quiet of the cave, she whispered a promise to her baby. She would find a way. She would not give up. She would keep moving forward no matter what. Her hand rested on her belly, feeling the life within. The night wore on and Abigail finally slept. The storm had taken its toll, but she had found a small victory. She was still here, still fighting. The new day would bring new challenges, but she would face them. In her dreams, she saw her husband. He was smiling, encouraging her. She felt his presence, his love. It gave her strength even in sleep. She knew she was not alone. She had memories and she had hope. As the first light of dawn touched the sky, Abigail woke. The storm had passed. The world was quiet. She felt renewed, ready to face the day. She would continue her journey. She would find a way to survive. She had to. For her baby, for herself. Abigail left the cave, stepping into the morning light. The air was crisp and fresh. She took a deep breath, feeling the promise of a new day. She had a long road ahead, but she was ready. Her heart was set on the future, on the life she wanted to build. Abigail woke up in the cave. The storm had passed. The sun was rising, casting a soft light. She felt the chill in the air but was grateful for the calm. Her body was stiff from sleeping on the hard ground. She stretched slowly, careful of her growing belly. She thought about her situation. She was alone now, separated from the wagon train. She had little food and only a thin blanket for warmth. But she was still alive. She had a chance to find a way forward. She took a deep breath, trying to gather her strength. Abigail knew she had to move. Staying in the cave was not an option. She needed to find food and a safer place to stay. Her body was weak, but her mind was strong. She thought of her husband and her baby. They gave her the will to keep going. As she stepped out of the cave, the world was quiet. The storm had left everything wet and fresh. The air was cold, but the sun promised warmth. Abigail felt a small flicker of hope. She was determined to survive. She began to walk, picking her way carefully over the wet ground. Her shoes were damp, and her feet ached, but she pushed on. She had no map, no clear direction. She could only follow her instincts and hope they would lead her to safety. As she walked, her mind drifted to her husband. She missed him deeply, his laughter, his strength. He would have known what to do. But she was alone now. She had to be strong for both of them. She had to keep moving forward, for their child. The landscape around her was vast and open. Hills rolled gently in the distance. Trees dotted the horizon. Abigail kept her eyes open for any sign of shelter or food. She had to find something soon. Her stomach growled, reminding her of her hunger. Hours passed as she walked. The sun rose higher, warming her skin. Her legs were tired, but she did not stop. She thought of her baby, resting safely inside her. She placed a hand on her belly, feeling the life within. It gave her strength. By midday, Abigail was exhausted. She needed to rest. She found a tree with a wide trunk and sat down, leaning against it. The shade was cool, and she closed her eyes for a moment. She let herself breathe, trying to gather her thoughts. Her mind wandered to the past. The life she had before felt like a different world. a world where she was safe and loved. She missed it, but she knew she could not go back. The future awaited, uncertain but full of possibility. After a short rest, she continued her journey. Her feet were sore, and her body ached. But she had to keep moving. She needed to find shelter before nightfall. The thought of another night in the cold was frightening. As the afternoon wore on, Abigail's pace slowed. Her body was tired, and her mind was weary. She wondered how far she could go. She thought of the stories her husband told, of people who faced great struggles but found a way. She wanted to be like them, brave and strong. The sun began to dip lower in the sky. Shadows grew longer as evening approached. Abigail felt a pang of fear. She was no closer to finding shelter. Her heart pounded with worry. But she pushed on, one step at a time. Just as she thought she could walk no more, she saw something in the distance. A dark shape stood out against the fading light. Hope flared in her chest. She moved toward it, her steps quickening despite her exhaustion. As she got closer, she saw it was another small cave. Relief washed over her. She had found a place to rest for the night. It was not much, but it was shelter. She entered the cave, grateful for the cover. The wind could not reach her here. She was safe, at least for now. Inside, Abigail settled down. She wrapped the blanket around her shoulders, trying to stay warm. Her stomach growled again, reminding her of her hunger. She ate a little from her bundle, saving what she could. She knew she had to make it last. As night fell, the world outside grew quiet. Abigail listened to the sounds of the night, the rustling of leaves, the call of distant animals. It was calming in a way, a reminder that she was not alone in the world. Her thoughts drifted to her baby. She whispered a promise, just as she had done the night before. She would find a way. She would not give up. Her hand rested on her belly, feeling the life growing inside. It gave her hope. The day had been long and hard, but Abigail had found a small victory. She was still here, still fighting. She closed her eyes, letting herself rest. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but she would face them. She had to. In the quiet of the cave, she thought of her husband again. His smile, his warmth. She missed him, but his memory gave her strength. She knew she was not alone. She had her baby, and she had hope. As sleep took her, she dreamed of the future. A place where she was safe and happy. A place where her baby could grow strong. She held on to that dream, knowing it would guide her through whatever came next. The night passed, and as the first light of dawn touched the sky, Abigail woke. The world was quiet and still. She felt renewed, ready to face the day. She had a long road ahead, but she was ready. Her heart was set on the future, on the life she wanted to build. Abigail awoke to the soft glow of dawn. The air was crisp, and the world outside the cave was quiet. She felt a little stronger after the rest, though her body was still tired. Her feet were sore, and her back ached. But she knew she could not stay in the cave for long. She needed food and a better place to rest. She stepped outside, feeling the chill of the morning air. The sun was rising, painting the sky with light. Abigail took a deep breath and surveyed her surroundings. The landscape stretched out before her, vast and open. It was beautiful in its own way, but also daunting. She had to find a way to survive in this wide, empty land. Abigail gathered her things and set off, her steps slow but determined. Her mind was focused on finding food and shelter. She had little left in her bundle, and she needed to conserve it. Her baby was due in a few months, and she had to stay strong for both of them. As she walked, her thoughts wandered. She thought of her husband and wished he were with her. She missed him every day, his strength, his kindness. But she knew she had to be strong for their child. The journey was hard, but she could not give up. The morning passed as she walked. The sun rose higher, warming her skin. Her body was tired, but she pushed on. She scanned the land for any sign of food or shelter. Her stomach grumbled, reminding her of her hunger. She needed to find something soon. By midday, Abigail was exhausted. Her legs felt heavy, and each step was a struggle. She found a fallen log and sat down, grateful for the rest. She leaned back, closing her eyes for a moment. Her mind drifted to the past, to memories of happier times. She thought of the stories her husband had shared. Stories of people who faced great hardships but found a way to survive. She wanted to be like them, brave and resilient. She wanted to build a new life for her child, a life full of hope and possibility. As she rested, she heard a noise. Her eyes snapped open, and her heart raced. She listened intently. The sound came from outside the cave, near the trees. It was a rustling noise, followed by a soft footfall. Her mind raced with possibilities. Could be an animal or perhaps something more dangerous. Abigail stood up slowly, careful not to make a sound. She moved toward the entrance of the cave, her heart pounding. She peered out, scanning the area. Her eyes caught movement. A figure stood near the trees, watching her. Her breath caught in her throat. The figure was a man, tall and strong. He wore clothing that was strange to her. His hair was long and he carried a spear. Abigail felt a jolt of fear. She had heard stories of Native Americans, but she had never met one. She did not know what to expect. The man stepped closer, his eyes calm and observant. Abigail backed away slightly, unsure of his intentions. Her mind raced with questions. Was he a threat? Would he help her or harm her? She could not be sure. The man stopped a short distance away. He watched her, his expression unreadable. Abigail met his gaze, her heart still pounding. She felt a mix of fear and curiosity. She had no choice but to wait and see what he would do. After a moment, the man gestured with his hand. It was a simple motion, inviting her to follow. Abigail hesitated, unsure of what to do, but something in his manner reassured her. He did not seem aggressive or threatening. He seemed calm, almost protective. Her instincts told her to trust him. She needed help and he was offering it. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her nerves. She nodded slowly, indicating that she would follow. The man turned and began to walk, leading her away from the cave. Abigail followed, her steps tentative. Her mind was filled with questions. Who was this man? Why was he helping her? She hoped she would find answers soon. For now, she had to trust him. She had no other choice. They walked for some time, moving through the trees. The man was silent, focused on their path. Abigail watched him closely, trying to understand him. His movements were confident and sure. He seemed to know the land well. As they walked, Abigail's fear began to fade. She felt a growing sense of hope. Perhaps this man could help her. Perhaps he could show her how to survive. She hoped he would lead her to food and safety. Finally, they reached a small camp. It was nestled in a clearing, surrounded by trees. A fire burned in the center, its warmth inviting. Abigail felt a wave of relief. She had found a place to rest, a place where she could be safe. The man gestured for her to sit by the fire. Abigail did so, grateful for the warmth. She watched as he prepared some food, using simple tools and ingredients. Her stomach growled, eager for nourishment. He offered her a portion, and she accepted it gratefully. The food was simple but filling. It warmed her from the inside, giving her strength. Abigail felt a deep sense of gratitude. This man, a stranger, had shown her kindness when she needed it most. They ate in silence, the crackle of the fire the only sound. Abigail watched him closely, studying his features. She wondered about his life, his story. She wanted to know more about him and his people. After they finished eating, the man gestured, trying to communicate. Their language barrier was a challenge, but they managed. Through gestures and expressions, they began to understand each other. Abigail learned that his name was Chayton. He was a warrior of the Lakota people. Chayton seemed curious about her as well. Abigail shared her story, using simple words and gestures. She told him about her journey, her husband, and the child she carried. Chayton listened intently, his expression thoughtful. As the day wore on, a bond began to form between them. It was a bond built on trust and mutual respect. Abigail felt a sense of connection, a feeling she had not experienced in a long time. She was grateful for Chayton's help, and she hoped to learn from him. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows. The air grew cooler, and the fire crackled warmly. Abigail felt a sense of peace, a feeling of safety. She knew she had a long way to go, but she was no longer alone. As night fell, Abigail settled by the fire, her heart full of hope. She thought of her baby, resting safely within her. She whispered a promise, just as she had done before. She would find a way. She would not give up. In the quiet of the night, she drifted off to sleep. Her dreams were filled with images of the future, a place where she was safe and happy, a place where her child could grow strong. She held on to that dream, knowing it would guide her through whatever came next. The night passed, and as the first light of dawn touched the sky, Abigail woke. The world was quiet and still. She felt renewed, ready to face the day. She had a long road ahead, but she was ready. Her heart was set on the future, on the life she wanted to build. She was not alone anymore. She had found a friend in Chayton. Together, they would face the challenges ahead. Abigail woke to the soft warmth of the morning sun. The fire had died down, but the air was still and calm. She felt rested and grateful as she looked around the small camp. Chayton was already awake, tending to the remains of the fire. His presence was reassuring, a constant in the uncertainty of her new life. She watched him work, his movements steady and purposeful. Abigail admired his skill and knowledge of the land. He seemed to know how to make the most of what was available. She wanted to learn from him to gain the skills she needed to survive. Chayton looked up and met her gaze. His eyes were calm and kind, filled with understanding. Abigail felt a spark of connection, a bond that had grown stronger since their meeting. She knew she could trust him, and that trust meant everything in her current situation. After they shared a simple breakfast, Chayton gestured for Abigail to follow him. He wanted to show her something, to teach her. She nodded, eager to learn. They set off together, leaving the small camp behind. As they walked, Chayton pointed out different plants and trees. He explained their uses with gestures and simple words. Abigail listened closely, trying to remember everything. She wanted to be able to gather food and medicine, to be more self-reliant. They reached a stream, its clear water flowing gently over smooth stones. Chayton showed her how to catch fish using a simple spear. Abigail watched him, amazed at his skill. He moved with ease and confidence, a master of his environment. When it was her turn to try, Abigail was nervous. Her hands shook slightly as she held the spear. But Chayton was patient, guiding her with quiet encouragement. She took a deep breath, focused on the water, and made her attempt. To her surprise, she managed to catch a fish. It was small, but it was a start. Abigail felt a surge of pride and looked at Chayton. He nodded, a small smile on his lips. She had done well, and his approval meant a lot to her. They continued their lessons, Chayton teaching her how to track animals and find edible plants. Abigail learned quickly, eager to absorb all the knowledge he could share. She felt more confident with each new skill, more capable of facing the challenges ahead. The sun climbed higher in the sky, and they returned to the camp. Abigail felt a sense of accomplishment. She was learning, growing stronger. She knew she still had a long way to go, but she was on the right path. Back at the camp, they prepared a meal with what they had gathered. Abigail felt a deep sense of satisfaction as she ate. She had contributed to this meal, had taken steps toward her own survival. It was a small victory, but an important one. As they sat by the fire, Abigail thought about her journey so far. The struggles, the fear, and the loneliness, but also the hope and the kindness she had found in Chayton. She was grateful for his help, for the bond that was growing between them. Chayton began to speak, his voice soft and steady. He told her about his people, the Lakota. Through simple words and gestures, he explained their way of life, their respect for the land. Abigail listened, fascinated by his stories. She shared her own story in return, of her life before and her hopes for the future. She spoke of her husband, of the child she carried. Chayton listened with quiet understanding, nodding as she spoke. They were different in many ways, but there was a shared understanding between them. As the day turned to evening, Abigail felt a sense of peace. She was no longer alone in the world. She had found a friend in Chayton, someone who understood her struggles and shared her hopes. She was grateful for his presence in her life. The bond between them grew stronger with each passing day. They communicated through gestures, expressions, and the few words they shared. Abigail felt a deep sense of trust, a connection that transcended their differences. As the sun set and the stars appeared in the sky, Abigail reflected on the changes in her life. She had faced abandonment and fear, but she had also found kindness and hope. Her journey was far from over, but she was no longer afraid. She lay down by the fire, feeling the warmth on her skin. The night was calm, the world peaceful around her. She thought of her baby, resting safely within her. She whispered a promise, just as she had done before. She would find a way. She would not give up. The night passed, and as the first light of dawn touched the sky, Abigail woke. The world was quiet and still. She felt renewed, ready to face the day. She had a long road ahead, but she was ready. Her heart was set on the future, on the life she wanted to build. With Chayton's help, she knew she could make it. As the new day began, Abigail felt a sense of hope. She was learning, growing stronger. She had a friend, a guide, and she was no longer alone. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they would find a way to survive and thrive. Abigail's life had changed so much. She had been alone and afraid, but now she had a place in Chayton's camp. The days passed, and she learned more each day. Chayton taught her many things. He showed her how to gather food, how to read the signs of the land, and how to make the most of the resources around them. Abigail felt stronger and more capable. She was grateful for Chayton's guidance and patience. The Lakota community was welcoming. At first, Abigail was unsure of her place among them. Their ways were new to her, and she worried about fitting in. But they shared their knowledge and welcomed her into their daily life. She learned their customs and joined in their activities. Slowly, she began to feel like part of the community. Her pregnancy was a constant reminder of the new life she was preparing for. The women in the community offered their support and advice. They showed her how to care for herself and the baby. Abigail felt a sense of belonging that she had not felt in a long time. She was grateful for their kindness and support. There were challenges, of course. The cultural differences were sometimes difficult to navigate. Abigail struggled with the language and the new way of life. She missed the familiarity of her past, but she was determined to adapt. She wanted to create a good life for her child. Chayton was always there to help her. He was patient and kind, always ready to support her. Their bond grew stronger with each passing day. Abigail felt a deep sense of companionship. She trusted him completely and valued his friendship. As the days turned into weeks, Abigail found herself settling into a routine. She helped with the daily tasks, gathering food and preparing meals. She learned to sew and mend clothes. She listened to stories and shared in the laughter around the fire. The community had become her family, and she was grateful for their acceptance. Abigail often thought of her husband. She missed him dearly, but she felt his presence in her heart. She knew he would want her to be happy, to find peace and safety for their child. She held onto his memory, drawing strength from it. One evening, as the sun set, Chayton took Abigail to a quiet spot nearby. The landscape was beautiful, bathed in the soft glow of the setting sun. They sat together, watching the colors change in the sky. Abigail felt a deep sense of peace. Chayton began to speak, his voice gentle and calm. He talked about the land, its beauty and its challenges. He spoke of the Lakota way of life, their respect for nature and the balance they sought to maintain. Abigail listened, captivated by his words. She shared her own thoughts, her hopes and fears for the future. She spoke of her desire to build a good life for her child. Chayton listened with understanding, nodding as she spoke. They sat in silence for a while, the connection between them strong and unspoken. As the stars began to appear in the sky, Abigail reflected on her journey. She had come so far, faced so many challenges, but she had found a new beginning, a place where she could belong. She felt hopeful for the future, excited for what lay ahead. The days continued to pass, each one bringing new experiences and lessons. Abigail felt more confident in her abilities. She was growing stronger, more resilient. She knew she could face whatever challenges came her way. Her bond with Chayton deepened. They spent more time together, sharing stories and laughter. Abigail felt a warmth in her heart, a feeling of comfort and joy. She cherished their friendship and the support he offered. As the days grew shorter and the nights cooler, Abigail knew that winter was coming. The community prepared for the harsh weather, gathering supplies and strengthening their shelters. Abigail joined in the preparations, eager to help and contribute. Chayton taught her how to make warm clothing and how to store food for the winter months. Abigail was grateful for his guidance. She felt prepared and ready to face the challenges of the coming season. As the first snowflakes began to fall, Abigail felt a sense of wonder. The world was transformed, covered in a blanket of white. She watched as the community adapted to the change, their resilience and resourcefulness inspiring her. The winter months were difficult, but Abigail was not alone. She had the support of the community and the friendship of Chayton. Together, they faced the challenges of the season, finding strength in each other. As the snow melted and the days grew longer, Abigail felt a renewed sense of hope. Spring was coming, bringing new life and new opportunities. She looked forward to the future, excited for the adventures that awaited. Abigail had found a new beginning, a life filled with promise and possibility. She was no longer just surviving. She was thriving. She had found her place in the world, surrounded by love and community. She was ready to embrace whatever the future held. As the snow melted away, the world around the camp came to life. The air was warmer, and the sun stayed longer in the sky. Abigail felt the change in the season, a promise of new beginnings. The community was busy preparing for spring. There was much to do and everyone had a role. Abigail had learned so much since her arrival. She was part of the community now, and she felt a sense of belonging. Each morning, she joined the others in their tasks. They gathered food, repaired shelters, and prepared for planting. Abigail enjoyed the work. Her body was stronger, and her heart was full of hope. The community faced challenges as they prepared for the new season. Past conflicts with settlers lingered in their minds. There was a quiet tension, an undercurrent of fear. Abigail felt it too. She had heard stories of the struggles between the Lakota and the settlers. It was a history marked by misunderstanding and conflict. Chayton sensed her unease. He spoke to her about his people, their history, and their hopes for peace. Abigail listened, trying to understand. She felt torn between her past and her present. She wanted to help, to bring understanding and harmony. As the days passed, Abigail and Chayton spent more time together. They worked side by side, their bond growing deeper. Abigail felt a warmth in her heart, a connection she cherished. She was grateful for his friendship and support. One afternoon, as they worked in the fields, Chayton spoke to her about the coming months. The community needed to prepare for the challenges of the new season. Abigail nodded, understanding the importance of their work. The community gathered for meetings, discussing their plans and concerns. Abigail listened, eager to learn and contribute. She offered her thoughts, sharing what she knew from her past experiences. Her insights were valued, and she felt a sense of pride. As the days grew longer, Abigail noticed changes within herself. Her pregnancy was progressing, and she felt the baby moving. It was a feeling of joy and anticipation. She looked forward to the day when she would meet her child. The women in the community offered their support and advice. They shared stories of motherhood, their fears and hopes. Abigail was grateful for their guidance. She felt a sense of connection, a bond with the women who had become her friends. Chayton was a constant presence, always ready to help. He was patient and kind, offering reassurance when she needed it. Abigail felt a deep sense of trust, a warmth that filled her heart. As spring arrived in full, the community celebrated. The air was filled with laughter and song. Abigail joined in the festivities, her heart light and joyful. She felt at home, surrounded by people who cared for her. The days passed quickly, filled with work and laughter. Abigail felt stronger, more confident. She looked forward to the future, excited for the adventures that lay ahead. But the tension within the community remained. There were whispers of trouble, of new settlers moving west. The past conflicts weighed heavy on their minds. Abigail felt the unease, a worry that settled in her heart. One evening, as the sun set, Abigail sat with Chayton by the fire. The air was cool, and the stars were bright in the sky. They sat in silence for a while, each lost in thought. Chayton spoke softly, his voice steady. He talked about the challenges they faced, the need for understanding and peace. Abigail listened, her heart heavy with concern. She wanted to help to bridge the gap between their worlds. She shared her thoughts, her hopes for a future without fear. Chayton nodded, his eyes thoughtful. They sat together, the bond between them strong and unspoken. As night fell, Abigail felt a mix of emotions. She was happy and hopeful, but also worried. The future was uncertain, filled with challenges. But she knew she was not alone. She had the support of the community and the friendship of Chayton. The days continued to pass, each one bringing new experiences and lessons. Abigail felt more at ease with each passing day. She was learning, growing stronger. She was ready to face whatever challenges came her way. Her bond with Chayton deepened. They shared stories and laughter, their connection a source of strength. Abigail felt a warmth in her heart, a feeling of comfort and joy. As spring turned to summer, the community thrived. The fields were green, and the air was filled with the scent of flowers. Abigail felt a sense of peace, a feeling of belonging. She was grateful for the life she had found, for the people who had welcomed her. She reflected on her journey, the struggles and the triumphs. She had come so far, faced so many challenges. But she had found a new beginning, a place where she could belong. She felt hopeful for the future, excited for what lay ahead. Abigail was ready to embrace whatever the future held. She was part of a community, surrounded by love and support. She had found a home, a life filled with promise and possibility. And with Chayton by her side, she knew she could face anything. Together, they would build a future filled with hope and peace. The summer days were long and warm. The fields were lush, and the community worked hard to prepare for the harvest. Abigail felt strong and capable, her belly growing with the life inside her. She was surrounded by support and friendship. The bond she shared with Chayton was a source of comfort and strength. One morning, as the sun rose, the air was tense. Whispers spread throughout the camp. A group of settlers had been spotted nearby, moving westward. The news brought a wave of worry. The community was on edge, memories of past conflicts fresh in their minds. Abigail felt the tension too. Her heart ached with concern. She remembered her own journey west, the fear and uncertainty. She knew that misunderstandings could lead to conflict. She hoped for peace, for a chance to build bridges instead of walls. Chayton gathered the community for a meeting. They discussed the situation, the need for caution and calm. Abigail listened, her heart heavy with concern. She wanted to help, to ease the tension and promote understanding. The settlers were camped a short distance away. There was talk of sending a group to meet them to open a dialogue. Abigail felt a pull to be part of that group. She knew both worlds, and she hoped she could help them find common ground. Chayton agreed with her. He saw the value in her perspective, her ability to bridge the gap between their worlds. Together, they joined the group that would meet the settlers. Abigail felt a mix of anxiety and determination. As they approached the settlers' camp, Abigail's heart raced. She remembered her own journey, the struggles and fear. She hoped that this meeting would be different, a chance for understanding and peace. The settlers were wary, their faces marked by the hardships of travel. Abigail recognized that look, the strain of the journey evident in their eyes. She hoped to find a way to ease their fears, to show them the kindness she had experienced. Chayton spoke first, his voice calm and steady. He introduced their group, explaining their intentions. Abigail watched the settlers' faces, hoping to see signs of understanding. The The tension was palpable, but she sensed a willingness to listen. When it was her turn to speak, Abigail stepped forward. She spoke of her own journey, her experiences with the Lakota. She shared her hopes for peace, for a future where they could coexist. Her words were simple, but they came from the heart. The settlers listened, their expressions softening. Abigail saw a glimmer of hope in their eyes. She felt a surge of relief, a sense of possibility. Maybe they could find a way to understand each other, to build a future together. The meeting continued, with both sides sharing their concerns. Abigail felt a sense of progress, a small step toward peace. She was grateful for the chance to be part of it, to contribute to something greater than herself. As the sun set, the meeting came to an end. The settlers agreed to maintain contact, to work toward understanding. Abigail felt a sense of accomplishment, a feeling of hope. She knew there was still much to do, but this was a start. Returning to the camp, Abigail felt a mix of emotions. She was hopeful but aware of the challenges ahead. She knew that building trust would take time, but she was ready to help. She felt a sense of purpose, a calling to bridge the gap between their worlds. Chayton walked beside her, his presence a source of comfort. They shared a quiet moment, the bond between them strong and unspoken. Abigail was grateful for his support, for the partnership they had built. As night fell, Abigail reflected on the day's events. She felt a deep sense of gratitude for the chance to help, to be part of something meaningful. She was ready to face the challenges ahead, to work toward a future filled with hope and understanding. The days continued to pass, each one bringing new experiences and lessons. Abigail felt more at ease with each passing day. She was learning, growing stronger. She was ready to face whatever challenges came her way. Her bond with Chayton deepened. They shared stories and laughter, their connection a source of strength. Abigail felt a warmth in her heart, a feeling of comfort and joy. As summer turned to fall, the community thrived. The harvest was plentiful, and the air was filled with the scent of ripe fruit. Abigail felt a sense of peace, a feeling of belonging. She was grateful for the life she had found, for the people who had welcomed her. She reflected on her journey, the struggles and the triumphs. She had come so far, faced so many challenges, but she had found a new beginning, a place where she could belong. She felt hopeful for the future, excited for what lay ahead. Abigail was ready to embrace whatever the future held. She was part of a community, surrounded by love and support. She had found a home, a life filled with promise and possibility. And with Chayton by her side, she knew she could face anything. Together, they would build a future filled with hope and peace. As the leaves began to turn golden, Abigail felt the change in the air. Autumn was upon them, bringing cooler days and crisp nights. The community was busy with the harvest, gathering the bounty of their hard work. Abigail joined in, her hands steady as she worked alongside the others. She was part of the rhythm of life here, and it filled her with a deep sense of satisfaction. Her pregnancy was progressing, and she felt the weight of the child she carried. The baby moved often, a constant reminder of the new life she was preparing for. Abigail was filled with a mix of excitement and anxiety. She wanted to be ready, to provide a safe and loving home for her child. Chayton was always by her side, his presence a source of comfort. He helped with the heavy tasks, ensuring that Abigail did not overexert herself. His care and concern warmed her heart. She was grateful for his support and friendship. As the days grew shorter, Abigail faced new challenges. Her body was tired, and she worried about the future. Would she be a good mother? Would she be able to provide for her child? These thoughts weighed heavily on her mind. Chayton noticed her unease. He offered reassurance, reminding her of her strength and resilience. Abigail listened, taking comfort in his words. She knew she was not alone. She had the support of the community and the friendship of Chayton. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Chayton shared stories of his childhood. He spoke of his family, their love and guidance. Abigail listened, her heart full of emotion. She hoped to create a similar bond with her child, to offer love and support. As the fire crackled, Abigail shared her own fears and hopes. She spoke of her past, her journey, and her dreams for the future. Chayton listened with understanding, his eyes warm and kind. They sat together, the bond between them strong and unspoken. The community continued to prepare for the winter months. They gathered firewood, repaired shelters, and stored food. Abigail helped where she could, eager to contribute. She felt a sense of purpose, a calling to care for her family and community. The women in the community offered their support and advice. They shared stories of motherhood, their joys and struggles. Abigail was grateful for their guidance. She felt a sense of connection, a bond with the women who had become her friends. As the first frost touched the ground, Abigail felt a mix of excitement and anticipation. The baby would be born soon, and she was eager to welcome this new life. She knew it would bring changes and challenges, but she was ready. One morning, as the sun rose, Abigail felt a sharp pain in her belly. It was a sign that the baby was coming. Her heart raced with a mix of fear and joy. She called for help, and the women of the community gathered around her. Chayton was by her side, his presence a source of comfort. He held her hand, offering reassurance and strength. Abigail felt a deep sense of gratitude for his support. The birth was difficult, but Abigail was strong. She focused on her breathing, her mind set on the child she was bringing into the world. The women guided her, their voices calm and steady. After what felt like hours, the baby was born. A cry filled the air, a sound of life and hope. Abigail felt a wave of relief and joy. She held the baby in her arms, overwhelmed by love. Chayton looked at the child, his eyes filled with wonder. Abigail saw the emotion in his face, a reflection of her own feelings. They shared a moment of pure joy, their hearts full. The community celebrated the new life, a symbol of hope and unity. Abigail felt a deep sense of peace, a feeling of belonging. She was grateful for the life she had found, for the people who had welcomed her. As the days passed, Abigail settled into her new role as a mother. She cared for the baby, learning as she went. The women offered their support, teaching her the skills she needed. Abigail felt more confident each day, more capable of facing the challenges ahead. Chayton was a constant presence, always ready to help. He was patient and kind, offering reassurance when she needed it. Abigail felt a deep sense of trust, a warmth that filled her heart. As the leaves fell and the air grew colder, Abigail reflected on her journey. She had come so far, faced so many challenges, but she had found a new beginning, a place where she could belong. She felt hopeful for the future, excited for what lay ahead. Abigail was ready to embrace whatever the future held. She was part of a community, surrounded by love and support. She had found a home, a life filled with promise and possibility. And with Chayton by her side, she knew she could face anything. Together, they would build a future filled with hope and love. The air was crisp, and the first snowflakes had begun to fall. Abigail watched them drift gently to the ground, a reminder of the passage of time. Her baby, now a few months old, was nestled against her. The warmth of the little body brought her comfort and joy. She had named the baby Hope, a name that captured the essence of her journey and dreams for the future. Life in the community was bustling as everyone prepared for the winter months. The harvest had been plentiful, and the stores were full. Abigail felt a deep sense of gratitude for the support and love she had found here. She was part of something bigger, a community that cared for each other. Her days were filled with new responsibilities. Caring for Hope was both challenging and rewarding. The baby needed constant attention, and Abigail was learning the rhythms of motherhood. It was a new world for her, filled with small victories and lessons. Chayton was always near, a steady presence in her life. He helped with Hope, offering to hold the baby when Abigail needed rest. His kindness and patience warmed her heart. They had become a family, bound by love and shared experiences. The community had embraced Abigail and Hope, celebrating their presence. The women continued to offer advice and support, sharing their own stories of motherhood. Abigail was grateful for their guidance, for the sense of belonging they provided. One evening, as the sun set, the community gathered for a ceremony. It was a time to give thanks for the harvest and to honor their ancestors. Abigail felt a deep sense of peace as she joined the others around the fire. She held Hope close, whispering a promise to provide a safe and loving home. The ceremony was simple but meaningful. Chayton spoke of the land, its gifts, and the importance of unity. Abigail listened, her heart full. She was grateful for the life she had found, for the people who had welcomed her. After the ceremony, as the stars appeared in the sky, Chayton and Abigail sat together. They talked about the future, their hopes and dreams. Abigail felt a warmth in her heart, a connection that went beyond words. She was grateful for Chayton's support, for the bond they had built. As winter settled in, life slowed down. The days were shorter, and the nights were long and cold. Abigail spent her time caring for Hope, finding joy in the simple moments. The baby's laughter and smiles filled her days with light. Chayton continued to be a constant support. He helped with the daily tasks, ensuring that Abigail had time to rest. They worked together, their partnership strong and unspoken. Abigail felt a deep sense of gratitude for his presence in her life. One day, as the snow fell softly outside, Abigail and Chayton spoke about formalizing their union. They had talked about it before, but now it felt right. They wanted to create a family, a home filled with love and unity. The community supported their decision, offering to help with the preparations. Abigail felt a sense of excitement and anticipation. She looked forward to the ceremony, to the promise of a future together. The day of the ceremony was clear and bright. The community gathered to celebrate, their faces filled with joy. Abigail wore a simple dress, her hair adorned with flowers. She felt a sense of peace and happiness as she stood beside Chayton. The ceremony was a blend of their cultures, honoring both their heritages. Vows were exchanged, promises made. Abigail felt a deep sense of joy as she looked into Chayton's eyes. She knew they were building a life filled with hope and love. The community rejoiced with them, marking a new chapter in their lives. Abigail felt a sense of fulfillment, grateful for the journey that had brought her here. She was ready to embrace the future, to build a home with Chayton and Hope. As the sun set, Abigail reflected on her journey. She had faced many challenges, but she had found a new beginning. She was part of a community, surrounded by love and support. She had found a home, a life filled with promise and possibility. Abigail was ready to face whatever the future held. She had a family, a place where she belonged. She was grateful for the path she had taken, for the love she had found. Together, with Chayton and Hope, she would build a future filled with hope and joy. As winter began to fade, the world around the camp started to change once more. The snow melted, revealing the earth beneath. The air was still cold, but the promise of spring was there. Abigail felt it in her bones, a reminder that new beginnings were on the way. Hope was growing quickly, her laughter a constant source of joy. Abigail marveled at each small milestone, each new discovery. The baby was curious and lively, bringing light into every room. Abigail was filled with love and wonder, grateful for the gift of motherhood. Chayton was a devoted father. He spent time with Hope, teaching her about the world. Abigail watched them together, her heart full. She was grateful for Chayton's presence in their lives, for the love and care he showed every day. The community was busy with preparations for the coming season. There was much to do and everyone had a role. Abigail joined in, eager to contribute. She felt a deep sense of purpose, a calling to care for her family and community. As spring approached, Abigail began to feel more settled in her role as a mother and partner. She felt more confident, more capable. The challenges of the past seemed distant, replaced by the joy of the present. The first signs of spring brought a sense of renewal. The trees began to bud, and the ground was soft and welcoming. Abigail felt the change in the air, a reminder of the cycle of life. She was grateful for the new beginnings, for the chance to grow and thrive. One morning, as the sun rose, Abigail felt a familiar pain. It was time. She called for the women of the community, and they gathered around her. Chayton was by her side, his presence a source of comfort. Abigail felt a mix of fear and excitement. She was ready to welcome their child into the world. The birth was long and difficult. Abigail focused on her breathing, her mind set on the life she was bringing into the world. She drew strength from the women around her, from Chayton's steady presence. The pain was intense, but her determination was stronger. Finally, after hours of labor, the baby was born. A new life, a symbol of hope and love. Abigail held the baby in her arms, overwhelmed by emotion. She felt a deep sense of joy, a connection to the cycle of life. Chayton looked at the child, his eyes filled with wonder. Abigail saw the emotion in his face, a reflection of her own feelings. They shared a moment of pure joy, their hearts full. The community celebrated the new arrival, a symbol of hope and unity. Abigail felt a deep sense of peace, a feeling of belonging. She was grateful for the life she had found, for the people who had welcomed her. As the days passed, Abigail settled into her new role as a mother of two. She cared for the baby and hope, finding joy in the simple moments. The laughter and smiles of her children filled her days with light. Chayton continued to be a constant support. He helped with the daily tasks, ensuring that Abigail had time to rest. They worked together, their partnership strong and unspoken. Abigail felt a deep sense of gratitude for his presence in her life. The community continued to thrive, each day bringing new experiences and lessons. Abigail felt more at ease with each passing day. She was learning, growing stronger. She was ready to face whatever challenges came her way. Her bond with Chayton deepened. They shared stories and laughter, their connection a source of strength. Abigail felt a warmth in her heart, a feeling of comfort and joy. As spring turned to summer, the community flourished. The fields were green, and the air was filled with the scent of flowers. Abigail felt a sense of peace, a feeling of belonging. She was grateful for the life she had found, for the people who had welcomed her. She reflected on her journey, the struggles and the triumphs. She had come so far, faced so many challenges, but she had found a new beginning, a place where she could belong. She felt hopeful for the future, excited for what lay ahead. Abigail was ready to embrace whatever the future held. She was part of a community, surrounded by love and support. She had found a home, a life filled with promise and possibility. And with Chayton by her side, she knew she could face anything. Together, they would build a future filled with hope and love. The warmth of summer wrapped around the community, bringing with it long days and clear skies. Abigail found herself busy with the tasks of motherhood. Hope was growing fast, full of energy and curiosity. The baby, still so new, demanded constant care. Abigail balanced her time between them, finding joy in the little moments they shared. The community was alive with activity. The fields were full, and there was much work to be done. Abigail joined in when she could, eager to contribute. She felt a deep sense of satisfaction in the work, a part of the rhythm of life here. Chayton was always near, ready to lend a hand. He was a devoted father, playing with hope and helping with the baby. Abigail watched them together, her heart full of love. She was grateful for Chayton's presence in their lives, for the bond they shared. As the days passed, Abigail found herself growing more confident in her role as a mother and partner. The initial fears and uncertainties of motherhood were fading, replaced by a sense of peace and fulfillment. She had found her place, surrounded by love and community. One afternoon, as she sat with the children, Abigail thought about the future. There were challenges ahead, she knew, but she felt ready to face them, armed with the strength of her family and community. Chayton joined her, sitting beside her on the grass. They talked about the days ahead, their hopes and plans. Abigail felt a warmth in her heart, a deep connection that went beyond words. She was grateful for Chayton's support, for the partnership they had built. The community continued to thrive, the fields yielding a bountiful harvest. There was a sense of joy in the air, a celebration of life and abundance. Abigail felt it in her bones, a reminder of the cycle of life. As the summer began to wane, Abigail noticed changes in the community. The days were still warm, but there was a sense of anticipation in the air. The harvest was approaching, and everyone was busy with preparations. Abigail joined in, eager to help. She worked alongside the others, her hands steady as she gathered the fruits of their labor. It was hard work, but satisfying. She felt a sense of purpose, a calling to care for her family and community. As the harvest came to an end, the community gathered for a celebration. It was a time to give thanks, to honor the land and its gifts. Abigail felt a deep sense of peace as she joined the others around the fire. She held her children close, whispering a promise to provide a safe and loving home. The celebration was simple but meaningful. Chayton spoke of the land, its beauty, and the importance of unity. Abigail listened, her heart full. She was grateful for the life she had found, for the people who had welcomed her. As the stars appeared in the sky, Abigail reflected on her journey. She had come so far, faced so many challenges, but she had found a new beginning, a place where she could belong. She felt hopeful for the future, excited for what lay ahead. The days continued to pass, each one bringing new experiences and lessons. Abigail felt more at ease with each passing day. She was learning, growing stronger. She was ready to face whatever challenges came her way. Her bond with Chayton deepened. They shared stories and laughter, their connection a source of strength. Abigail felt a warmth in her heart, a feeling of comfort and joy. As summer turned to fall, the community thrived. The air was filled with the scent of ripe fruit, and the fields were golden with the harvest. Abigail felt a sense of peace, a feeling of belonging. She was grateful for the life she had found, for the people who had welcomed her. She reflected on her journey, the struggles and the triumphs. She had come so far, faced so many challenges, but she had found a new beginning, a place where she could belong. She felt hopeful for the future, excited for what lay ahead. Abigail was ready to embrace whatever the future held. She was part of a community, surrounded by love and support. She had found a home, a life filled with promise and possibility. And with Chayton by her side, she knew she could face anything. Together, they would build a future filled with hope and love. As the leaves began to change color and the air cooled, Abigail felt the shift in the season. Autumn was here, wrapping the community in a blanket of golden hues. The days were shorter, and the nights were crisp. Abigail found herself reflecting on her journey, the path that had brought her to this place of peace and belonging. One day, while tending to her daily tasks, Abigail noticed a group of travelers approaching the camp. Her heart skipped a beat as she recognized some of the faces. They were members of the wagon train she had once traveled with. Memories flooded back, bringing a mix of emotions. The travelers were weary and worn, their journey etched on their faces. Abigail watched them, her mind racing. She remembered the fear and loneliness she had felt when they left her behind. But she also remembered the strength she had found, the new life she had built. Chayton noticed her unease and approached. His presence was calming, a reminder that she was not alone. Abigail took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. She knew she had to face her past, to find closure and understanding. As the travelers settled in for a rest, Abigail approached them. Her heart was pounding, but she was determined. She wanted to understand, to find peace with what had happened. The travelers looked up, surprise and recognition in their eyes. Abigail spoke simply, sharing her journey since they parted ways. She spoke of the kindness she had found, the community that had welcomed her. She talked about her family, the love and support that surrounded her. Her words were calm, filled with the strength she had gained. The travelers listened, their expressions softening. Some apologized for leaving her behind, explaining the fear and desperation they had felt. Abigail listened, her heart open. She understood their struggles, the choices that had led them here. In that moment, Abigail found forgiveness. She realized that holding on to anger and pain would only weigh her down. She chose to let go, to embrace the future with an open heart. It was a release, a step toward healing. Chayton stood by her side, his presence a source of strength. Abigail felt a deep sense of gratitude for his support, for the bond they shared. Together, They had built a life filled with love and promise. As the travelers prepared to leave, Abigail wished them well. She hoped they would find their own peace, their own place in the world. She watched them go, her heart light. She had faced her past and emerged stronger. The encounter allowed Abigail to fully embrace her new life. She felt a sense of freedom, a readiness to face whatever the future held. The community was her home, a place where she belonged. The days continued to pass, each one bringing new experiences and lessons. Abigail felt more at ease with each passing day. She was learning, growing stronger. She was ready to face whatever challenges came her way. Her bond with Chayton deepened. They shared stories and laughter, their connection a source of strength. Abigail felt a warmth in her heart, a feeling of comfort and joy. As fall turned to winter, the community thrived. The fields were prepared for the cold months ahead, and the air was filled with the scent of wood smoke. Abigail felt a sense of peace, a feeling of belonging. She was grateful for the life she had found, for the people who had welcomed her. She reflected on her journey, the struggles and the triumphs. She had come so far, faced so many challenges, but she had found a new beginning, a place where she could belong. She felt hopeful for the future, excited for what lay ahead. Abigail was ready to embrace whatever the future held. She was part of a community, surrounded by love and support. She had found a home, a life filled with promise and possibility. And with Chayton by her side, she knew she could face anything. Together, they would build a future filled with hope and love. Winter settled over the land, covering the ground with a soft blanket of snow. The air was crisp, and the days were short. The community moved at a slower pace, the rhythm of life adjusting to the season. Abigail found comfort in the routine, a steady pattern that brought peace to her days. Her children, Hope and the baby, were her joy. They filled the long winter days with laughter and curiosity. Hope was eager to explore, full of energy and questions. Abigail watched her, marveling at her spirit. The baby, still so small, was a constant source of wonder. Abigail felt blessed, grateful for the family she had. Chayton was a steady presence, his strength a source of comfort. He helped with the children, their bond growing deeper with each passing day. Abigail was grateful for his love and support. Together, they faced the challenges of parenthood, learning and growing as a family. The community was close-knit, each member playing a vital role. They supported each other, sharing resources and knowledge. Abigail felt a deep sense of belonging, a connection to the land and its people. She was part of something bigger, a web of relationships that sustained them all. One evening, as the sun set, a messenger arrived at the camp. He brought news of trouble, a group of outsiders causing unrest nearby. The community gathered to discuss the situation, their faces marked by concern. Abigail felt the tension, a reminder of the fragile balance they maintained. Chayton spoke to the group, his voice calm and steady. He emphasized the importance of unity, of working together to find a solution. Abigail listened, her heart heavy with concern. She wanted to help, to protect the community that had become her home. The decision was made to send a group to meet the outsiders to open a dialogue. Abigail felt a pull to be part of that group. She knew she could help, bridging the gap between cultures with understanding and patience. Chayton agreed, recognizing her strength and insight. Together, they joined the group that would meet with the outsiders. Abigail felt a mix of anxiety and determination. She hoped for peace, for a chance to find common ground. As they approached the outsiders' camp, Abigail's heart raced. She remembered the challenges of her own journey, the fear of the unknown. But she also remembered the kindness she had found, the new life she had built. The outsiders were wary, their faces marked by the hardships of travel. Abigail saw the fear and uncertainty in their eyes, a reflection of her own past. She hoped to find a way to ease their fears, to show them the kindness she had experienced. Chayton spoke first, introducing their group and explaining their intentions. Abigail watched the outsiders' faces, hoping to see signs of understanding. The tension was palpable, but she sensed a willingness to listen. When it was her turn to speak, Abigail stepped forward. She spoke of her own journey, her experiences with the community. She shared her hopes for peace, for a future where they could coexist. Her words were simple, but they came from the heart. The outsiders listened, their expressions softening. Abigail felt a surge of hope, a sense of possibility. Maybe they could find a way to understand each other, to build a future together. The meeting continued, with both sides sharing their concerns. Abigail felt a sense of progress, a small step toward peace. She was grateful for the chance to be part of it, to contribute to something greater than herself. As the sun set, the meeting came to an end. The outsiders agreed to maintain contact, to work toward understanding. Abigail felt a sense of accomplishment, a feeling of hope. She knew there was still much to do, but this was a start. Returning to the camp, Abigail felt a mix of emotions. She was hopeful but aware of the challenges ahead. She knew that building trust would take time, but she was ready to help. She felt a sense of purpose, a calling to bridge the gap between their worlds. Chayton walked beside her, his presence a source of comfort. They shared a quiet moment, the bond between them strong and unspoken. Abigail was grateful for his support, for the partnership they had built. As night fell, Abigail reflected on the day's events. She felt a deep sense of gratitude for the chance to help, to be part of something meaningful. She was ready to face the challenges ahead, to work toward a future filled with hope and understanding. The days continued to pass, each one bringing new experiences and lessons. Abigail felt more at ease with each passing day. She was learning, growing stronger. She was ready to face whatever challenges came her way. Her bond with Chayton deepened. They shared stories and laughter, their connection a source of strength. Abigail felt a warmth in her heart, a feeling of comfort and joy. As winter turned to spring, the community thrived. The land began to awaken, and the promise of new beginnings filled the air. Abigail felt a sense of peace, a feeling of belonging. She was grateful for the life she had found, for the people who had welcomed her. She reflected on her journey, the struggles and the triumphs. She had come so far, faced so many challenges, but she had found a new beginning, a place where she could belong. She felt hopeful for the future, excited for what lay ahead. Abigail was ready to embrace whatever the future held. She was part of a community, surrounded by love and support. She had found a home, a life filled with promise and possibility. And with Chayton by her side, she knew she could face anything. Together, they would build a future filled with hope and love. As the chill of winter began to fade, Abigail noticed the subtle signs of spring. Buds appeared on the trees, and the days grew longer. The air was still cold, but it carried the promise of warmth and renewal. Abigail felt a sense of anticipation, a readiness for the new season and the changes it would bring. Her children, Hope and the baby, were thriving. Hope was full of energy, exploring the world with wide-eyed wonder. The baby was growing quickly, each day bringing new discoveries and joys. Abigail felt a deep sense of gratitude for her family, for the love that filled their days. Chayton was her partner in every sense. He shared in the responsibilities of parenthood, always ready to lend a hand. Their bond had grown stronger over time, rooted in love and mutual respect. Abigail was grateful for his support, for the life they were building together. As the community prepared for spring, there was a sense of excitement in the air. The harsh winter had passed, and the land was ready to awaken. Abigail joined in the preparations, eager to contribute. She felt a deep connection to the earth, a part of the cycle of life. The community gathered to discuss the plans for the new season. There was much to do and everyone had a role. Abigail listened, her mind focused on the tasks ahead. She was ready to work, to help build a future filled with promise. One afternoon, as she tended to her tasks, Abigail found a moment to reflect. She thought about her journey, the path that had brought her here. It had been long and difficult, filled with challenges and triumphs. But she had found a new beginning, a place where she could belong. She thought of the people who had welcomed her, the community that had embraced her. They had become her family, a source of strength and support. Abigail felt a deep sense of gratitude, a recognition of the love that surrounded her. As she worked, Abigail also thought of the future. There would be challenges, she knew, but she felt ready to face them, armed with the strength she had gained. She was hopeful for the future, excited for the adventures that lay ahead. The days continued to pass, each one bringing new experiences and lessons. Abigail felt more at ease with each passing day. She was learning, growing stronger. She was ready to face whatever challenges came her way. Her bond with Chayton deepened. They shared stories and laughter, their connection a source of strength. Abigail felt a warmth in her heart, a feeling of comfort and joy. As spring blossomed, the community thrived. The fields were green, and the air was filled with the scent of new growth. Abigail felt a sense of peace, a feeling of belonging. She was grateful for the life she had found, for the people who had welcomed her. She reflected on her journey, the struggles and the triumphs. She had come so far, faced so many challenges, but she had found a new beginning, a place where she could belong. She felt hopeful for the future, excited for what lay ahead. Abigail was ready to embrace whatever the future held. She was part of a community, surrounded by love and support. She had found a home, a life filled with promise and possibility. And with Chayton by her side, she knew she could face anything. Together, they would build a future filled with hope and love. As the sun set over the land, Abigail felt a deep sense of gratitude for the path she had taken. She was home, surrounded by love and community, ready to embrace whatever the future held. Together with Chayton, she had found her place in the world, a life of fulfillment and joy. The community continued to grow and thrive, embracing the changes that each season brought. Abigail felt a deep connection to the land and its people. She was grateful for the journey that had brought her here, for the life she had built. She looked toward the future with hope and determination. She knew there would be challenges, but she felt ready to face them. She had the strength of her family and community, the love that bound them together. Abigail was at peace with her past and excited for the future. She had found her place, her purpose, and her home. She was ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that she was not alone. Together with Chayton and her children, she would build a future filled with hope and love. If you loved the story, like the video and subscribe.